Hey there, welcome back to New Eyes Open. Showing up again another day for me, showing up for you, and encouraging you to show up for yourself, whatever that looks like for you in this season of life. And that's actually what I'm going to talk about today is how I mentioned this in one of my other videos, but how looking back at the patterns throughout my life, one of the things that came up was this tendency to shy away from diving into my own personal creative process when it comes to expressing myself, expressing my voice, particularly for a wider audience to experience. And so, in 2006, I had the idea to start a blog, and so I purchased the course, right? Way back in 2006 on how to start a WordPress blog and how to create a WordPress site in order to be able to have your own WordPress blog. And I went through the entire course and got everything set up. But then when it came time to actually start the writing process, which, if we recall, the initial thought or idea was to start a blog, which typically means you're going to do some writing. You're going to write the blog posts, right? And instead of doing the writing, I got stuck in the weeds of creating the actual vehicle for, where the blog posts would live whenever I eventually got around to writing them. And two things here when I'm looking back at my patterns. One, the idea of writing in and of itself, something that I felt like I wanted to share with the world, was a daunting task because it mattered to me. The quality mattered, rightfully so. And instead of reframing it as, okay, well, I'll start with draft one, or even I'll start with 50 words a day or 500 words a day for a draft, and then I'll do another 500 words, or I'll come back and refine that draft. I decided to start, well, I'll do this thing in the background that people can't see, but that's necessary in order for eventually people to see the blog posts that I write, but that I wasn't writing. So, and then the other thing is I did start a blog. Essentially, I got everything set up for the blog to be hosted, or for it to sit, but then I shied away from the writing part. And when I look back at my patterns, I don't see this as wrong or right anymore. I used to think, if I had only started back then, and there's still a little bit of that, because if you think about what I just said, if I had written 500 words of a draft each day and or refined, the 500 words each day, or even one day a week back in 2006, that was 20 years ago, I would have a pretty well-established blog by now, right? And yet, because the end goal seems so daunting, and also because if we're just being really real, I was scared of what other people would think of my work. I was scared to put it out there. I was scared to be seen. I was scared to, I knew that whenever I truly express myself authentically, that there would be some vulnerable aspects of my story exposed. And even 20 years ago, feels like so much happened 6 years ago that, but 20 years ago, there were things that I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for people to see me that vulnerably. I don't know if I'm ready to expose that, and rightfully so. So it's not wrong. It just wasn't the right time. And so timing is everything. And then similarly in 2013, I got as far as writing the drafts of a handful of blog posts and outlining. I had a whole notebook full of outlines for various blog posts. And so I went a step further that round, right? And then in 2019, I went even further and actually started putting it all together. I had the website, I published several of the blog posts. I started to get into this rhythm of, um, at the time, when I first started, my goal was once every month. And then I had shortened it once I got into that. I shortened it to once every week. And that was starting to build momentum right about the time that 2020 happened to all of us, and so many things got flipped on their head. And I once again took a big step back, mostly because everything in my mind was so jumbled. I didn't trust myself to write about it publicly. I did a lot of writing in the background during that time frame, and that was helpful. And so looking back, like, was that wrong to step back away from the blog in 2013 and 2019? I don't think so. I think it wasn't the right timing for me. You could look at it. It depends on what your metric of success is, right? Like, if my metric of success is I said I was going to do this thing and it's not done yet, then yeah, I could have put more effort into it. I could have put my head down, forced myself, faced my fears back, 20 years ago, 13 years ago, 6 years ago, etc. But I didn't. And instead, I learned other lessons. Instead, I focused my energy, I really poured my energy into my children and, um, visualizing the kind of life that I wanted for them and for us as a family, and just moving forward, what kind of rhythm I wanted our life to have. And now, in this cycle, having seen the pattern of my tendency to set all the things up, but also with the benefit of I have set all the things up now, I am doing this a different way. And here we are. This brings us full circle to showing up today for myself and showing up for you and encouraging you to show up however it is that you're called to show up. Because here we are. I am actually creating the things. I'm being vulnerable. You guys have seen me fumble over my words. You've seen me chase rabbit hole or rabbits that, are dive down rabbit holes, chase rabbits, however you want to say it. See, it's happening right now. Where this isn't this tight, succinct message necessarily, and yet at the same time trusting that this is the message that wants to come through, and trusting that by you seeing me fumble over my words and get kind of lost on camera in my own ideas, circle round and round one point until finally landing on it, all these things, I hope that encourages you to just do the thing. Write the 500 words, the draft. You don't have to share it yet. For me, I needed the layer of accountability this go around of sharing it so that I would show up not only for myself, but also for you. Because by showing up for you, I ensure that I show up for myself. And that is really what it's all about. Whatever you feel called to do, show up for yourself. Don't beat yourself up about the times in the past that you didn't show up the way you think maybe you should have, or if we're being real honest, that this world and the way that everything's set up right now of, you have to create something, you have to share what you create in order to get money from what you shared, from what you've created so that you can buy groceries and sustain your life. That timeline, while yes, it is necessary to, money is a necessary thing in our world, and it is necessary to exchange value with one another, it doesn't always have to be, your creative endeavor doesn't have to be the way that you're earning money. I think that is the point I'm wanting to get across. Just because you're called to speak to other people and share your voice or share your ideas doesn't necessarily mean that that is the way you're meant to make money right now in this season. It could just be that that's the way you're meant to create and share with the world right now. And through that, other opportunities may come. And if nothing else, you are just expressing yourself as an individual, which makes you a more vibrant and alive person in the world, which means you will be more magnetically other things, other opportunities for making money, for making connections, which then lead to, different endeavors, different opportunities will be more magnetically drawn to you simply because you're living out your curriculum right now. You're who you were here to be, in this season of life, what you're evolving into and what you value. Make sure that, I think a lot of times we chase these dreams that we think are ours, but they actually don't belong to us. We were never meant to chase them. Um, and and sometimes that's why we end up down these dead end roads, or we end up looking back and going, gosh, coulda, shoulda, woulda, because now I realize my real dream was this other thing, but I spent all my time chasing this thing because I thought it was the one thing. And so those are my thoughts that came through to share with you today. And I would love to hear how things are going for you, how you are being called at this season, this stage of your life, and in this season of life to show up for yourself. And if it feels too vulnerable or too tender to share the things that you have been called to create with the world, it's okay to just show up for yourself and create them for your own sake. You don't have to share them with the world. That doesn't mean don't create them. All right. I would love to hear what's going on for you down in the comments. And if this resonated with you, if this helped you in any way, I greatly appreciate the like, the subscribe, the share, all the YouTube-y things so that this can get out to more people who maybe it will also make an impact on, because that's really what it's all about during this stage of my life. Thank you so much for being here, and until tomorrow, I hope you're well.